What is up, everybody? Daniel Rock Zero Eight back in our video. 1998 year in review continues with WCW Super Brawl 8. Last time around, I gave WCW Sold Out a good score of a 6.5 out of 10. That's a great score overall, honestly. I know it may not seem high, but keep in mind, I take all of the scores that I give the matches, average it all out, and that is what it gets. So on average, every single match was a 6.5, which is very good because some pay-per-views, you tend to have fantastic matches. Some matches on shows just aren't meant to be good anyways. They serve different purposes. Anyways, can Super Brawl maintain its momentum? This time, we are getting the rematch from Starrcade with Sting taking on Hollywood Hogan for the vacant WCW World Heavyweight Championship. Bret Hart and Ric Flair, who were on Sold Out, is not on this card here for some particular reason. I guess, they figured, we don't have Sting and Hogan on Sold Out, so let's do Bret and Ric Flair, and we'll have Hogan and Sting this time around. I guess. I don't know. So let's talk about Super Brawl 8. We start off with a back-to-back television title match. There are two television championship matches back-to-back in a span of about 25 minutes. The first part, we have Booker T taking on Rick Martel, who is the television champion. Rick Martel won the television championship 6 days prior to this on an episode of Nitro. Rick Martel, this would be his final match because during this match he would get a very bad injury during a hip toss. The ring is much smaller than a WWF ring, so you just need one step for the hip toss and then you toss him. Booker T took 2 steps and then tossed him, and Rick Martel's his leg got caught up on the ropes and really injured him very badly. This would be Rick Martel's last match. This is still a great match overall. A 7 out of 10. 10-minute match. Very good stuff here. Booker T gets the win with a crescent kick from a crescent kick to the side of his face on Rick Martel as he came down to do a move from the top turnbuckles. Then, out of nowhere, immediately following this match, immediately following Booker T's victory, out comes Perry Saturn. He locks in the rings of Saturn, but he gets out of it. Then they have a match. Booker T defeats Perry Saturn to retain his newly won television championship. They said on Nitro that Perry Saturn would face the winner of Booker T versus Rick Martel because Rick Martel is the new television champion. He would face the winner at a later time during the show. However, I'm guessing because of the injury of Rick Martel, and I think Rick Martel is actually supposed to win this match. I guess they decide, let's just have the match now and have Booker T retain both times. Whatever. Booker T defeats Perry Saturn in a television title match, and this is also a very good match, a 7 out of 10. Booker T going back-to-back matches. He wrestled 25 minutes combined in 2 separate matches. A 10.5-minute match with Rick Martel and a 14.5-minute match with Perry Saturn. Both matches are very good. It shows you that Booker T is going to be the future of WCW, and it's just fantastic. Good opening stuff right here. Another 7 out of 10. Next up, we have La Parka defeating Disco and Inferno in a match that really has no business being on the card. WCW had a weird habit of this. WCW would toss in matches that were designed to be filler, I guess. WCW would instantly throw filler matches on pay-per-views that had no build, no storylines whatsoever. And they would do it even on fucking Starrcade. Even Starrcade would have filler type shit that has no business. Anyways, this is an okay match. La Parka gets the victory 5 out of 10. It really has no purpose. It's not a cruiserweight it's not a number one contenders match for the cruiserweight title. I don't. Anyways, 5 out of 10. Next up, Goldberg squashes Brad Armstrong in a very good squash match. I'm not going to review this match because it is a squash match. It only lasts about 2 minutes. How can you really review a squash match? Brad Armstrong makes him really fucking intense. Looks really good. Goldberg gets not an audible Goldberg chant that's from the fucking machine. He actually gets it from the crowd itself. So he's getting genuine Goldberg chants now. The crowd is fucking insane already on Goldberg. Crowd is nuts for Goldberg. You can tell that by the end of 1998, Goldberg would just be one of the biggest stars in the entire world of wrestling. Goldberg's intense. He does a one-arm jackhammer to Brad Armstrong, and that gives him the victory. Not going to rate it because it is a squash match, but a great squash match at that. Next up, Chris Jericho defeats Juventud Guerrera in a great Mask versus Cruiserweight Championship match. This is a great match for two stellar Cruiserweight division stars. Chris Jericho wins this match, which means Juventud has to demask himself, and which he does so, which is kind of crappy on WCW's behalf. WCW had a bad habit of doing this. They would purposely have their masked superstars lose. And instead of building them up and making them even bigger stars, they would essentially just become nobodies. See, the mask made Juventud very unique, very much different. Now he takes the mask off. How is he any different than any other guy? How is he any different than, say, from an Eddie Guerrero? Or how is he different from La Parka? How is he different? What makes La Parka different? You know, how is Juventud any different than an Eddie Guerrero or a Chavo or anyone else, a Dean Malenko? You know, and they unmask Rey Mysterio Jr. as well, taking his mask off. What makes him any different from Billy Kidman or anybody else? Anyways, with that being said, it's still a great match. An 8 out of 10, great match. And we followed up with a real stinker. It's motherfucking Mongo and the British Bulldog. So, you had the British Bulldog. You know, WWF, I thought, kind of dropped the ball with Owen Hart. They could have really made Owen Hart really good, defending his brother, you know, for Revenge of Montreal. They really could have made Owen Hart a strong main event player in WWF. Instead, they blow off their match with Owen Hart and Shawn Michaels on a random episode of Raw. It doesn't really conclude. Owen Hart then loses to Triple H and loses the European title. WCW side of things, you would think by gaining the British Bulldog, by gaining Jim Neidhart and Rick Rude and a few others, because of Montreal and Bret Hart, you would think that they would capitalize and use British Bulldogs to the fullest extent they can possibly make. Instead, no, they don't, and he defeats Mongo in a match that has no business being on this card. Bulldog went from main eventing a lot of WWF pay-per-views. He went from having a stellar match with Shawn Michaels, despite the finish, having stellar matches with Bret Hart, to facing Mongo in his very first pay-per-view match at WCW. This is trash, too, being generous. Bulldog in 1998 in WCW was basically useless, versus the Bulldog in 1993's WCW was actually much more useful. He was always Sting's buddy, basically. Bulldog in 1993 basically replaced Lex Luger for intents and purposes for teaming up with Sting to go on against Vader. But in 1998, he really has no purpose being there, honestly. So they didn't know what to do with Bulldog this time around. Next up, we have Diamond Dallas Page defeating Chris Benoit to keep a hold to retain his United States Championship in a fantastic match. 8 out of 10, fantastic match. I loved every bit of this match. On par with the Cruiserweight versus Mask match, this is great, great match. And Diamond Dallas Page would only gain even more momentum from his awesome feud that he had with Randy Savage. Him and Benoit, along with Raven and a few other guys that he would have matches with, will really prove why Diamond Dallas Page really was a huge star in WCW despite his age. Diamond Dallas Page at this point in time is already, like, I believe 39 years old, if I'm not mistaken. Actually, he might have been 40 at this point in time. He's 40 years old. He only been in the business for a couple of years. This is a stellar match from two stellar performers. An 8 out of 10. Next up, Lex Luger defeats Randy Savage. Lex Luger, his abdominal is all taped up. And this is about the 5,000th match they had together. You think John Cena and Randy Orton had a lot more matches, but you'd be probably wrong, because I swear to God, I've seen Lex Luger and Randy Savage face each other a lot of times. And I've concluded the fact that these two guys, other than their match at World War III back in 1995, which was actually very decent, I've concluded to the idea Luger and Savage never clicked well. They just never had good matches together. Luger and Hogan actually had great matches together. Savage and Luger did not. Savage and Sting actually had some decent matches, but Luger and Savage together does not have good matches. So Luger and Savage don't have good matches, and I've also concluded at the end of the main event that Hollywood Hogan and Sting also did not have good chemistry either. Anyways, a piss poor match, a 2 out of 10. These two guys never clicked together, even though they fought each other a million times over. Next up, the Outsiders defeat the Steiners for the Tag Team Championships. Again, they beat them. And it seems like the Outsiders retain their tag titles. But no, they actually lose their tag titles quite a bit. And the Steiners are actually the tag champions, the real tag champions going in this match. This is a bad match, but however, I'm giving it a 3 out of 10. And that's being nice, because this is much more of an angle than it is much more of a match. It's much more about Scott Steiner saying, I don't need you, big brother, anymore. I don't need you, older brother, anymore. And Scott Steiner turns his back on Rick Steiner, and so disheartening. This is a real swerve before swerve in WCW became a running gag. This is an awesome swerve. I only give this match a 3, but the swerve itself with Scott Steiner turning heel, dyeing his hair blonde, and before he became Big Papa Pump, he was known as White Thunder or White Lightning or something like that. Then he was Big Papa Pump, the big bad booty daddy, Scott Steiner. So Scott Steiner turns on his big brother, Rick Steiner, and the Outsiders win back their tag team titles. This is a piss poor match. However, the swerve really makes it worthwhile. A 3 out of 10, and Scott Steiner would become Big Papa Pump, Big Bad Booty Daddy. When I go behind and do the bump and grind, and it's only a matter of time before I make you tap out to the Steiner recliner, and I'll be whispering in your ear, size does matter, bitch. See, they don't have to wait for the Earth to rotate on 47-degree axis so the stars can align to create the Big Dipper. No, they just call Big Papa, because I'm the man with the Big Dipper, and satisfaction's coming. Satisfaction does indeed come for the big bad booty daddy, Scott Steiner. Next up, the main event. Sting defeats Hollywood Hogan for the WCW World Heavyweight Championship. And this is a much better match than the Starrcade match, but that's not saying a whole lot. This match still has a lot of bad sting about it. A lot of bad habits. Hogan basically dominates Sting, much more so. Not as much more so, but a lot like his Starrcade match. I've concluded that these two guys, just like Luger and Savage, they don't work well together. And it's really weird to see that. Sting and Hogan, you would think these two guys being so fucking huge, being so fucking popular, that they would rub off against each other and actually have a fantastic match. But they never did have a fantastic match. Luger and Hogan had fantastic matches. Sting and Savage had great matches. Savage and Hogan had good matches. Luger and Sting had good matches, but Sting and Hogan never had good matches. But this is their best match up until, if you don't want to believe me, that's okay. You don't have to. But honestly, their Bound for Glory 11 match is actually their best match, and is actually a decent match. This match is not as good as that match. I'm dead serious. But it's still a much better match than Starrcade. Sting gets a Scorpion Death Drop on Hogan. However, before Sting can get to the pinfall, the referee gets knocked out a second time. A different referee. This is Nick Patrick, the screwy referee. Fuck him. Savage comes in. All comes the NWO. And Savage, while nobody's looking, while the NWO guys is getting their asses whipped, Savage with something, I think it was a spray paint bottle, whacks it in the face of Hollywood Hogan before he can get up and knocks him out. Sting gets the victory. It's a piss-poor finish to an otherwise much better match than their match at Starrcade. A 5.5 out of 10, which I think is a fair match review for this. Overall, like I said, Sting and Hogan just don't ever really click. I don't care if it's Hogan being Hogan and using his creative control clause to say, no, son, you got to make me look good. I'm the man, brother. But I don't care what it is. These two guys just never click together. But their match at Bound for Glory 2011, I'm dead fucking serious, is a much better match and is their best match together. I'm dead fucking serious. Same thing with Luger and Savage. They just never had good matches together. Overall, a 5.5. Overall, SuperBrawl 8 gets a 5.5 out of 10. This is an okay show. Not nearly as good as Sold Out, but it's still a good, okay show. There is. You have two fantastic matches with Booker T in them. You have a great mask versus title match with Chris Jericho and Uvi. And you had a good match with Diamond Dallas Page and Chris Benoit. But you have two horrible matches with Bulldog, Mongo, and Luger and Savage. A disappointing, even though it's a better match than Starrcade in the main event. Outside of Steiner's was bad, but it's much more of an angle. For an angle, it's great. Overall, a mixed bag of a show. 5.5. And for WCW in 1998, I catch you next time for Uncensored. Oh, God, I can't wait to review that shitty, fucking awful brand. Woo, doggy. And then it's, well, I already reviewed WrestleMania 14 like 10,000 times. So, like I did with 13, I will give you the Go Home Raw. And you know what? Just for an extra bonus Raw, I will do the WrestleMania after. The Raw after WrestleMania. So I'll do both back-to-back Raws. And for ECW, it's Living Dangerously. Catch you next time in my year of review of 1998. Goodbye.